If you're planning to move to the United States, one of the first things you'll need is a US bank account. It sounds simple, right? But if you've read the forums or talked to other newcomers, you've probably heard horror stories about endless paperwork, confusing requirements, and weeks of waiting. So, is opening a US bank account really as hard as everyone says? Or is it actually easier than you think? Today, I'm sharing my experience, what I learned, and step-by-step tips to help you get your American banking sorted without the stress. Let's start with the basics. Why do you need a US bank account? If you're planning to live, work, or run a business in the US, you'll need a bank account for just about everything. Employers usually pay by direct deposit, landlords want to see proof of funds, and you'll need to pay bills, sometimes even to set up utilities. Plus, using your European card in the US racks up foreign transaction fees and can cause headaches with currency exchange. When I first arrived, I assumed I could just walk into a bank, show my passport, and open an account on the spot. In some ways, I was right, but there were a few surprises along the way. Step 1. Choosing the right bank. The first surprise was just how many options there are. In the US, you'll find big national banks like Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, as well as local banks and credit unions. Each has its own requirements, fees, and perks. Some banks are more foreigner-friendly than others, especially in big cities or areas with lots of newcomers. I recommend doing some research before you arrive. Look for banks that offer newcomer or international accounts. Some even have partnerships with European banks, making the process smoother if you already have an account back home. Step 2. What documents do you need? This is where it gets tricky. Each bank has its own rules. But here's what most will ask for. Your passport. A US address. This can be tricky if you've just arrived. More on that in a moment. A secondary form of ID, like a driver's license, national ID card, or credit card from your home country. Proof of legal status, visa, ESTA, or green card. Social security number, SSN, or sometimes just proof that you've applied for one. Some banks may accept an individual taxpayer identification number, ITIN, instead of an SSN. When I first tried, I didn't have a social security number yet, which is common for newcomers. Some banks let me open a basic account without one, as long as I promised to update them when I got my SSN. Others said no SSN, no account. If you're in this situation, ask about their policies before you go in. Step 3. The address problem. If you're staying in temporary accommodation, like a hotel or Airbnb, it can be hard to provide a US address. Some banks accept a letter from your employer, a lease agreement, or even a letter from your university if you're a student. Others require a utility bill in your name, which you probably don't have yet. It's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. Here's what worked for me. I used my temporary address and updated it once I had a permanent place. Some newcomers use a friend's address or their employer's office. Just make sure you can receive mail there, because the bank will send your debit card and important documents. Step 4. In-person versus online. You might be used to opening accounts online in Europe, but in the US, most banks want you to come in person, especially as a non-citizen. I visited a branch, waited in line, and sat down with a banker who walked me through the process. It was actually pretty straightforward, and the staff were used to helping internationals. A few banks, especially online-only ones, let you open accounts remotely, but they're more likely to require a US SSN and a permanent address. If you're a digital nomad or moving around a lot, check out banks like Wise, Revolut, or Monzo, which offer multi-currency accounts and US routing numbers. But keep in mind, these aren't always considered real US bank accounts for things like credit or loans. Step 5. Minimum deposits and fees. Unlike in Europe, many US bank accounts have minimum deposit requirements and monthly fees. For example, you might need to deposit $25 or $100 to open the account and keep a minimum balance to avoid monthly charges. Some banks waive fees for students, new arrivals, or if you set up direct deposit with your employer. Ask about all fees up front: monthly maintenance, ATM withdrawals, overdrafts, and international transfers. US banks love their fees, so it pays to read the fine print. Step 6. getting your card, and using your account. Once your account is open, you'll usually get a temporary debit card on the spot or within a few days by mail. Setting up online banking is easy, and you can link your account to payment apps like Venmo, Zelle, or PayPal. These apps are super popular in the US for splitting bills, paying rent, or even buying things at the farmer's market. One thing to note, credit cards work differently in the US. Your European credit history doesn't transfer, so you'll be starting from scratch. Most banks won't give you a credit card until you've built up some history, usually by using your debit card, paying bills, or getting a secured credit card where you put down a deposit. Step 7. What if you're an entrepreneur or business owner? If you're planning to start a business, you'll need a separate business bank account. This requires extra paperwork, like your company's formation documents, an employer identification number, EIN, and sometimes a business license. The process is more involved, but many banks have special teams to help new business owners. My surprises and tips. So, was opening a US bank account easier than I thought? Honestly, yes and no. The process itself wasn't difficult, but the requirements can feel confusing, especially if you're missing a social security number or don't have a permanent address yet. The key is to come prepared, ask questions, and don't be afraid to try multiple banks if your first choice says no. Here are my top tips. Bring every document you can think of: passport, visa, proof of address, work or university letter, and any ID you have. Be honest about your situation. Bank staff have seen it all before, and they're usually willing to help if you explain you're new. Don't panic if you don't have an SSN yet. Some banks will let you update your file later. Compare banks before you commit. Fees and requirements vary a lot. Start building your US credit history as soon as you can. Even a secured credit card helps. Use online banks or fintech apps as a backup. They're great for transfers and everyday spending, even if you still need a real US bank for salary and bills. In the end, opening a US bank account isn't as scary as it sounds. It takes a bit of patience and paperwork, but once it's done, you'll feel so much more settled and ready to take on your American adventure. If you have questions about banking in the US or want to hear more about managing money as a newcomer, drop a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life tips and stories about moving to the United States. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching. We hope you found this video helpful as you prepare for your move to the United States. If you found value in the information and advice provided, please consider supporting the podcast on Patreon. Your donations will allow us to continue creating new episodes and videos to help even more people with their relocation to America. Just visit patreon.com/movingtotheus to sign up. Until next time, best of luck with your move.